And committee members, Rob Oglesby, California Energy Commission. I think I should probably highlight on this item that we've already heard the substance of the issues. The principal activity here is to change the funding source from the cost of implementation fund to the air pollution control fund. And then also 2 additional issues have been raised, which language is suggested. And if it's okay, I could like to speak to the context of those.
Yes. Very
Briefly. Clearly, these are some issues that will probably be decided at a higher pay grade than mine, but just as a reminder, the context for the first one is SB 350, which was just passed. It calls for the independent systems operator to do a study on the regionalization of the management of the grid. The intent there is to better integrate renewables into the system, keep costs down. There's a recognition that there's also a balancing required to make sure that the policy goals of the state of California are respected as we implement this program. I just remind the committee that the recommendations of this report do go to the legislature and require legislation to implement. This is asking for an independent study. It'd be important not to interject too much time and process into that. With that comment, let me move on to the second one. The second issue relates to a worthy goal, but I wanted to bring to the attention of the committee some of the complications of bringing this worthy goal into practice. This is to ask the Energy Commission to do a tracking system for natural gas and have a rating system for natural gas that essentially takes into account leakage in the system from well to delivery, so that people that procure natural gas would be able to determine the amount lost along the way and the consequences of that to the environment. The Energy Commission has done a great deal of research and needs to do more research to understand the amount of leakage that's going on in the system. Indeed, we have a number of contracts and research projects underway to look at system leaks. Other organizations are also doing the same thing. EDF has done quite a bit. There are thousands of wells across the United States, miles and miles of pipeline and network. There's not a existing data system that we could go to create a rating system at this time. So we would have to do some preliminary work to set a direction towards what this language seeks to achieve. But there isn't an easy way to implement what's being asked. I'd be happy to work with staff and committee to discuss both of these issues and iron out the language going forward, but I wanted to flag that there are some issues with implementation.
All right, thank you. LAO, do you have any comments? I think we've heard this item. All right. The recommendation is to approve as proposed with the May revision funding adjustments and the following trailer bill language. One refers to an independent third party shall include its findings in a written report submitted to the governor and the relevant committees by June 30th, 2017, and the second has to do with the natural gas tracking and rating system to be developed by CPUC and Dogger. So is there a motion? It has been moved by Senator Pavley. Please call the roll. Excuse me, public comment. Come forward.
Good morning, Mary McDonald with the Independent System Operator, and I want to just speak to the study language that you're considering. We would urge you to not vote on that at this time. We are undertaking a very thoughtful and comprehensive open process that involves hundreds of stakeholders as we're moving forward, and world-class consultants, including engineers, some of the professors from Berkeley, Brattle, Bear, Aspen, are all doing these studies, and before they come to you, they still have to be reviewed by PUC, CEC, and CARB, and then the governor, and then it would come to you. So yet another process really thwarts the agreement that was and the procedures that were laid out in SB 350. So we would urge you to not adopt this language.
All right, thank you. Are there other comments?
Ella Marati with the Department of Finance. If I could just add, in addition to the concerns that have been expressed, we note that there would probably be costs for number 2, and those costs are unknown but likely significant, and there's no identified funding source.
All right, thank you. Come closer. What these, how many buildings? Okay, all right. We need a motion. No, these are Senate proposals.
And those are for the items that's listed on page 5 and 6, correct?
Yes.
I'll move that.
All right, it's been moved by Senator Pavley.
Just
Senator
an
Nielsen.
observation. This is a major, major policy, and there's obviously major studies or scrutiny in process now. And I would argue this is much better done in a policy committee setting where there's a thorough review. The subcommittee and budget is not a thorough review, and I think this warrants much better than that.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. All right, it has been moved that we move forward with the two suggested areas of action. So please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? Senator Pavley?
All right, that's been supported 2-1. All right, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, last issue for the Energy Commission. All right, briefly.
This is a repurposing of essentially loan repayments under the ARA program to do a couple of things, $5 million to general services to improve state buildings, but the remainder of the funds are intended to help local governments that want to do leading-edge energy efficiency improvements, like getting a jump start on SB 802.
All right. Is there any public comment? All right, Elio, you have any comments on this? No. All right. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Senator Nielsen.
I'd like to inquire, what kind of mandatory programs are we talking about here? They're mandated efficiency standards, building standards,
So the Senator,
and how are they mandated? Through the county planning departments or local government? Are they mandated on the counties or on private buildings or homeowners?
So the legislature last year passed SB 802, which intends to have commercial buildings have essentially a grading of how energy efficient they are, and it's a benchmarking program that was established by the legislature. This bill intends to incent communities and many communities are doing a similar thing ahead of the legislation. So this intends to provide a program where there'd be a competitive system to award grants that help implement. So it's not a mandate, it's basically an incentive to pull ahead. Some communities are being progressive in establishing benchmarks. Now, the intent of the program is to harness the free market system so that purchasers and operators of commercial buildings have an understanding of what the energy use is of that asset.
Well, is it not working? Is it not
Brand new.
any quantification that what was mandated or what was imposed by the legislature is not progressing?
It's brand new. It's
brand new, and we're already having to incentivize it? I mean, why wasn't it incentivized last year? If it was such a good idea, it should take on its own. But now it's barely put in statute, and now we're having to incentivize it?
I think this is an attempt to recognize communities that are in the lead and incent communities that want to do more sooner and help empower local governments to do that. They don't have to do that.
They don't have to. So there is no mandate pursuant to last year?
No mandate to apply for these funds, absolutely.
Pardon?
There is no mandate to apply for these funds.
But is there a mandate, or is there a penalty if you don't?
No.
You don't?
No, it's to reward those and empower those who want to launch.
Someone else, will you?
But was there a mandate in last year's legislation that you had to comply?
There is last year's legislation, SB 802, does have a provision that provides for the establishment of, it did a number of things changing the way that energy efficiency, I guess to be a direct answer, there is no mandate that all buildings of the state have to do any mandatory upgrade. This is about creating information and handling the data associated with energy consumption of existing assets.
So if the owner of a building or a private residence just ignored the law of last year, there's no penalty? They didn't do anything, they didn't report any data, or didn't add any new windows or sashing or insulation, or?
So the laws that were enacted last year don't compel improvements.
They don't compel? Okay, well, I'm sort of having trouble.
I'd be happy to schedule some time to discuss the program that's under development right now and provide more detail on what the path forward is on that bill.
Well, yeah, I'd like to be a little bit more clear where we're going. We passed a bill, and now we're trying to incentivize the bill, and I'm not computing.
Okay, more of a matter of jump-starting, but I'd be more than happy to provide additional information on how the program plans going forward.
All right. Do we have a motion on this?
So
Senator
moved.
Pavlik? It's been moved, approved as proposed. Public comment? Did I do that? All right, hearing none, please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? No. Senator Pavley?
Aye.
This is approved 2-1. Thank you very much. Moving on to the Public Utilities Commission, we have 4 items, issue 1 through 4. The first is the Lifeline cost estimates update. All right. Welcome. All right.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Ryan Doolan, Deputy Executive Director at the Commission, here for Tim Sullivan, who couldn't be here today.
That's fine.
I also have Marzia Zafar, our Director of Policy and Planning. We'll make it brief. These are items that have already been heard by the committee. We did submit our May revision as requested by the committee and update our estimates. There are a couple of questions staff did want us to respond to, have to do with our primary drivers. For the cost estimate changes.
We're very happy the costs came down.
Yeah, we're actually glad to see that as well.
Good job.
So, that's basically the availability of data. So when the BCP data that's submitted initially with the BCP, there wasn't a lot of data available on wireless. It's been fluctuating. So now that we have more data available, our forecasting is more accurate. So you see that come down. We also, with 1.6 million Lifeline participants due for renewal in 2016, we're looking at about a 30% renewal rate, which is very low. And so that will also drive down the lower participation in 2016-17 than originally forecasted. The other thing is we have a connection subsidy, which affords the carriers a $39 connection fee per participant for changes in service or signing up. So the commission reinstated that in December 2015, and that will be in effect till the end of December 2016. So that is the 2 primary drivers for the cost adjustments. For the uncertainties, we still have several unknowns in the program. And again, the cost subsidy is going to be one since it actually comes to an end in December. The commission has not went on record yet as whether that's going to be reinstated or not, so the commission will be considering that as well. The growth rate increase for wireless participation is really difficult to predict. There's a fluctuation depending on participation. In addition to the new carriers that are entering the marketplace, whether their advertising or marketing efforts actually drive up participation, so that's really hard to predict. And the FCC order modernizing the Lifeline, so FCC is now considering funding broadband internet. So this goes along the lines of LAO's comments of the committee or legislature looking at the program to see if it's still in line with the statute or the direction of the legislature. And then the CPUC also has an open proceeding on the remaining items for the Lifeline program, and that could also impact any kind of estimates or tapping into the fund. So these are all things that Commission is considering. We have new management, new faces at the Commission. We are working closely with our control agencies to make sure that we are getting inserted in the right budget process and actually bringing you guys the estimates for your consideration. So that answers that question.
Okay, thank you. LAO, do you have any comment on this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ross Brown with the LAO. We've reviewed the revised estimates, and we think they're reasonable, and we don't have any issues with the estimates. We do want to note that as the department, as the commission indicated, there continues to be a lot of uncertainty about the future enrollment in the program and various cost drivers. But we do think it's helpful to have the updated estimates, and the legislature can be more comfortable with its allocation.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have any questions? Senator Nielsen?
Did I hear you say a minute ago something about funding broadband internet? Is that an expansion of this from the cell phone?
It would be. So the FCC is currently looking at Lifeline on the federal level, and broadband internet service is one of those things that the feds are looking at.
Wouldn't that be a very substantial cost increase?
That would be, or there's other alternatives that the feds can look at is you would actually have a choice between funding wireless or broadband, not in addition to wireless. So you would only have, just like we have in California, you can get wireline or wireless, you can have or broadband. So it doesn't have to be multiple choices, you can have either or. So those are things that would be in front of the FCC right now for consideration.
Okay, and you mentioned a one-time connection subsidy. What is that subsidy? Is that to each individual owner of the cell phone, or now I guess it would be if you expanded the broadband connectivity?
Actually, it's for the carriers to sign up. There's administrative cost for signing up a participant. So the carriers are actually subsidized $39 for each participant that they sign up.
That's their incentive then?
Right.
I get that.
And we've now, the commission has, as of 2015, it used to be unlimited. We've actually put some controls on it. Now it can only be twice per participant.
Okay. Now, last year there was quite an issue of multiple phones, and you were studying that. Is that still under study, that, you know, many phones could be in a given household or a given residence or location, whatever you called it, residence, I think it was, wasn't it?
Right. So the commission looks at fraud, waste, and abuse in the program through a third-party administrator. So we've actually really set the nation in this area. So we actually look at multiple phones per household, and we limit it to actually just one. There is, your question at one of the hearings, I think, was a separate economic unit. So there are folks that may be in the household but have separate economic dependents that are able to get a phone, but they actually have a separate economic basis for that need. But we do look and have a control in place that only allows one individual per economic unit in the household. We've instituted that on a statewide basis here in California.
Could you get me a copy of what that separate economic unit is defined as? Is that defined by regulation?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see what that, how that's defined, the individual economic unit. And how do you justify to the rate-paying base how all the ratepayers benefit from this?
So I think it's availability and the ability for disenfranchised people to actually have access to government services, that utilize the cell phone or landline service. So the commission has ordered that wireless be an option for those folks to have access to 911 services, government services through the Lifeline program.
Okay. Now, you mentioned you're going to get me the definition of the individual economic unit. How is that verified? Do you get tax returns or W-2 forms or?
So it's through an application process. So again, our third-party administrator goes through Social Security number and validates identity. And then we also have an annual renewal process, which the participants then have to go through to validate that it's only one cell phone or landline service per economic unit.
So there is an annual requirement of a re-verification.
There is.
And is that embodied in a regulation also?
That is.
Could you give us a copy of that regulation too, please?
I'd be happy to provide the order to the committee.
Okay.
All right.
So, and that, does it define the income thresholds that are required then?
It does.
Okay, if you could get that to us too.
For sure.
Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to approve the May revised caseload and cost estimates for the Lifeline program?
Yeah, so moved.
It's been moved by Senator Pavley, Public comment? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Senator Wolf?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen?
No,
Senator Pavley?
if I don't like it.
2 to 1, that passes. All right. Issue number 2, the Transportation Rate Fund Trailer Bill Language, April Finance Letter. The proposal is to reject the proposal and adopt supplemental reporting language that requires the CPUC to report by January 1st, 2017 on the number of investigators conducting enforcement of household good carriers, past and current efforts, future efforts, and options to provide adequate funding for the program. Does the LAO have any comments on this?
We didn't have any comments. This issue was I guess, excuse me, it was pulled off the previous item. We didn't raise any issues, but we also think that the staff recommendation is reasonable. Your staff recommendation is to reject the proposal and allow for a little bit more time to investigate some of the issues related to enforcement. And we'd be happy to work with staff on crafting some of the language that would get the type of information that might help the legislature evaluate the proposal.
All right. Is there a motion? All right. It's been moved by Senator Pavley. Public comment in a moment. Public comment? Seeing none, yes, ma'am.
Kathy Madison, Department of Finance. We'd just like to note that this is consistent with the audit findings and that the cost allocation plan that the PUC uses is justified for the expenditures in this fund.
All right, thank you. We agree that with the LAO, we think there's a little bit more work that has to be done on this. So it has been moved. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? Senator Pavley?
3 to 0, that passes, or that is rejected. Issue number 3, the operations-related trailer bill language.
So we agree with the staff's recommendation on this one. We've heard this also in the Assembly. While we haven't seen the specific trailer bill language, the proposal seems reasonable. We just ask if we could have a review comment once that is available. That'd be great.
All right. The recommendation is to, again, to conform to the Assembly's adopted of the placeholder trailer bill language requiring, 1, CPUC to report on its business process inventory efforts in March of 2017, and to ask the CPUC to report on the options to expand its operations and staff outside of the San Francisco headquarters. And we've had that discussion. A lot less expensive. All right. So is there public comment on this? All right. I believe we have a motion from Senator Pavley. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolf?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen?
I'm going to abstain since we don't see any language. I don't know what I'm proposing.
All right.
Senator Pavley?
All right. It has been, that is supported 2 to 0, 1 abstention. All right. The last issue for today is the Green Tariff SB 43 proposal. This is a bill that was passed in 2013. The recommendation, which had a sunset and a cap on it, there's been delay since 2013 with the CPU process, and therefore the recommendation is to remove the sunset and retain the megawatt cap. The motion is to, the suggestion is to approve as proposed. Any comment from the CPUC?
No, we agree with staff's recommendation.
All right, thank you. All right, please, need a motion? It has been moved by Senator Pavley. Please call the roll.
Senator Wolk?
Aye.
Senator Nielsen? Senator Pavley?
All right, that is supported 2 to 1. And I believe that is it. All right?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Committee.
All right, we are adjourned.